Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me once again Kenneth Bertholomey. Kenneth, good
What's
to have
up?
you back
What's
on,
up?
my man.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So today we're going to be talking about the tarot. And why do you think that the tarot has become so popular and so many people are drawn to it now?
That's a beautiful question, man. People are reaching out. They have more questions than they used to have. They're asking deeper questions, things that they weren't really paying attention to before. So everybody's reaching for new levels of information. And the tarot provides that, right? The tarot is literally the blueprint to the human psychology and the human experience. It's literally a map of consciousness and the map of your experience here. So whenever we're able to read this and understand the images on each card, each one of these cards conveys a message into itself. And they're extremely detailed. So once we understand these messages, when we begin to work with divination, however you choose to read cards, you're able to get messages about every aspect of your life and anyone else's that you choose.
Would you say that each card is sort of a mirror or a doorway to aspects of the subconscious?
Every card is literally a map, a blueprint of either an experience or a way of being in this place. So when you're able to read that and understand, you're able to get a bit deeper understanding of how consciousness works, right? And which direction to go next. You can think of it as different levels, right? And as we're hitting different levels, the tarot will guide you through the emotional space and the psychological space in order for you to reach higher levels of consciousness. To change the things in your life. Sometimes most people live in the ego programming or in the shadow. And both of these aspects keep people stuck in lower vibration states of consciousness, right? So it keeps you lying to yourself or keeps you from making the decisions in your life that you know you need to change. So that's what the tarot does. The tarot cuts through all the bullshit and tells you exactly what direction you need to go and how you need to go about making changes in your life.
I couldn't agree more. Now, would you agree that certain things can hinder readings, can hinder messages from coming through, like certain mind-altering substances or things like that?
Most definitely. It could go either way. And when we're really talking about is learning how to control the mind. Most people can't control the thought space. They have that constant blah, 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 that constant chaos inside the mind, right? There is a new way of being. There's a new way of living your life. When I walk around through my day, there are no thoughts that go through my mind whatsoever. My mind is completely silent at all times. When you're able to achieve this state, it makes channeling or drawing information from the subconscious mind instant connection. There's no delay. There's no confusion about what you're hearing inside your mind. So it takes the channeling game to the next level, and you're able to interpret the reality even because now you're able to focus on exactly what's happening in front of you, not that constant blah, 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 constant chaos, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Now, how important would you say imagination is? Because I often tend to just let my imagination run wild in reading with the imagery and everything else. How important would you say that is?
Yes, man, it's a great question. So when you're working with goes back to the third eye and being able to receive impressions, right? So most people, when you close your eyes, it's just black. It's just like a blackness. Well, when you begin to open the third eye chakra, you're going to be able to start getting images or imprints in the darkness, almost like silhouettes that come out of the darkness. Some people can get full blown images that play out inside their mind, right? So, but whenever you're tapping into this, most people have been taught their whole life that they're what they're seeing isn't real or what they're seeing is just made up inside their mind, and this is where most people question anything that's playing out inside their mind. So the more you fine tune this and you begin to let the images flow through and then again channel those and get them out of you in a cohesive way, you're able to make sense of whatever situation that we're talking about. So if you're reading for somebody that's in another country and they're going through a situation with a partner, if you might get images inside the mind of two people arguing or things like that, and those images would couple with the reading. So learning how to decipher those messages is key when we're talking about reading energy for people.
Yeah, and one thing I would say is that, like, if you're giving a reading and certain cards pop out, or you end up with a certain card, and you think you have doubts about it, just go with it. Chances are it goes along with the reading, even though you may not think, you may have doubts like, oh, I don't want to look like a dumbass, or I'm not sure if I should. Just tell them, because that's the cards know what you're going to ask it before you ask it. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%, man. So I read energy and teach energy manipulation to thousands of people. I've cataloged thousands of hours in the seat reading the hearts and minds of people. So one thing you begin to see is there's a common occurrence between people, right? And once you begin to draw the lines of what those commonalities are, you're able to reach deeper into messages, and then the things that you're feeling just kind of flow through you. So when a card comes out, you're able to trust that that's the message and not question whether it came out the right way, up or wrong way, right? So when it comes to fear and doubt, man, there's no room for fear and doubt inside magic or divination whatsoever. And that's the practitioner's biggest challenge to overcome, it is questioning the information that comes up in the reading, right? So one of the best ways you can counter that is by using multiple forms of divination, layering your readings. So for instance, using tarot cards and then throwing dice or throwing bones on top of it, or using things like oracle decks. Oracle decks are different aspects of the human existence. And all you're doing when you're adding these layers is you're building the message deeper and deeper so that it's more clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Now, you mentioned adding layers. Do you take into account numerology when you're giving a reading? If
That's a
so,
good
how?
That's a great question, man. Everybody, anytime you're divinating, all of these tools are meant to be worked with, right? So now we're jumping into numbers, and what we need to learn to do when we start working with numbers is ascribe a meaning to each one of the numbers. So what is the spiritual meaning of the numbers 1 through 9, right? And it's up to the practitioner to code the language. We're building a language here with the subconscious mind. So as you're doing this, you can take other people's meanings of the numbers, or you can make up the meaning of the number for yourself, something that's just your take on it, right? But whenever you're able to do that, it becomes just like cards, and when they fall out, you know exactly what the meaning of the card is, right? Because you've ascribed a meaning to that, right?
Hmm.
So all of these things, these images that we're working with, are just levels of the subconscious mind conveying messages to you about something you need to either focus on or do, or pay attention to.
Yeah, definitely. Now, would you agree that there is really no wrong way to read the tarot because everybody has their own way of doing it? Nothing's set in stone. Would you agree with that?
Hell yeah, man. And this goes back to making the practice more personal, because when you some of the meanings, I go by some of the traditional meanings. And listen, if you're starting out with divination and tarot, I highly recommend starting out with the Rider Waite deck. All right, this deck, it has the original meaning and the original artwork that was designed for this process. So when you're able to understand this deck, you can literally go and pick up any other tarot deck out there, even if it changes suits or changes imagery, which they all do. So now you're able to pick up another deck, and you understand exactly what those cards and the meaning are coming out. But if you picked up and started any other type of deck besides this, you're going to jump to a different deck, and you're not going to be able to understand the meanings or the messages that are trying to be conveyed, right? So the Rider Waite deck, man, is definitely the way to go. And adding the numbers into it again, it just adds layers so that you're able to look at different angles of messages. Most people are just reading like from past to future, but in reality, we live in all timelines simultaneously at one time, right?
Mhm.
So it's about the perspective of how you're viewing the situations, and you're using different tools just gives you that higher and higher perspective.
Yeah. And would you say that like having going to a different tarot deck, each different tarot deck is like going to a different friend? Like you can go to a friend and you can ask the same question, but they're going to tell the answer to you in different ways,
Yes,
and you're going to
yes.
get a certain twist to the truth depending on different tarot deck or which friend you go to. Would you agree? Would that be a fair comparison?
And 100%, and it gives you a different view of the same question. Because man, a lot of times we ask questions, they're multifaceted and multi-layered, right? Sometimes in life, where things are not just yes and no, simple questions. So for yes and no, we would use something like a pendulum, right? So that gives you a different layer of answering questions. But with the tarot, these are for deeper explanations. Most people want to know, why the fuck is this happening to me, right? And sometimes that can't be conveyed in just a yes or no format, right? So, and even when you're working with the tarot, even though there's the traditional meaning to the card, ascribing your own meaning to the card, it makes the practice that much more relatable, right? And that much more meaningful to you. And this is why people build bonds with their tarot deck. It's because it's an extension of them. It's a coded language that they have created.
Yeah, as far as building bonds, like one thing that I tend to do sometimes if I get a new deck is I'll place the deck under my pillow when I sleep. So when I wake up, there's sort of a subconscious link to it, and there's more of an attachment. What
Yes.
are ways that you like to attach yourself to your decks?
That's a great question, man. So any type of magical tool, if I'm not gonna, most of the time I try to create it, but if I have to buy one, building that bond is essential. So starting off saging your deck, because all these decks have been touched by other people, and energy is attached to that, right? So you want to start by clearing any type of energy that's associated to the object. And then when you're working with it, you want to sit down in a space to where you can just focus on, and you're gonna pull 5 cards for the past, 5 cards for the present, and 5 cards for the future. If you're somebody that's just starting out, this is a complete basic way to get started. So what you do is that the 5, 5, and 5, you're able to read the cards, look up the meanings, and every day of doing this, you're gonna learn the tarot at an extremely fast, high rate of speed. Right. And then at the end of the day, you can come back and see how the current line of cards played out in your day. So now we can attach a deeper meaning. So now we can see what the cards were trying to convey as we come back and look how that played out. Does that make sense?
Definitely. It also helps in assigning. Think of each suit assigned as to a different element. You can
Yes.
go deeper with that.
Yes.
Um,
That's the
yeah,
best part. These aren't just the basic images, man. There's coded language in top of this, right? Even though when you're beginning reading, you might not know what the image is on the card, but your subconscious, you're the collective knows, right? So you have access to that, and it's just about teaching yourself the meanings on a deeper and deeper level. And then you get to where you can even go into the cards. The images in the background play a role in messages as well. So it's extremely detailed, man. And one of the most detailed tools that I've ever worked with when we're talking about making progress in your emotional and psychological space, it's one of those tools that every witch needs to have in their arsenal.
definitely. And now I had talked with this about someone in another guest in another show earlier, and I want to get your take on it. Now, there are some people who believe that, well, in order for a tarot deck to be useful, it has to be given to you. And then there are others that say, well, no, that's not true. You can pretty much just buy a tarot deck and associate it with your energy. Would you say that there's any truth to that, where a lot of
And
people believe it?
100%. So before I started reading, I would have told you no, but now that I've got a chance to read the hearts and minds of thousands of people, you could begin to see this is one of the commonalities I was talking about. So what I see is that people that are given any type of spiritual tool, like a pendulum or even a book on spirituality, as a child or growing up at any point in your life, this is a key indication of somebody that's going to be able to reach higher levels of spiritual connection in this place in this lifetime. All right, this is a sign of a natural witch. So if you're given a tarot deck or a pendulum, something like that, then it's meant for you to pursue those deeper and to master those in this lifetime. Now you don't have to be given these things, right? It's just something that you'll just go out and buy on your own, and it makes the same meaning as you ascribe to it, right? So if you feel like it's something sacred, then it's going to be sacred. It's about how you feel about it. That's why building the bond with a deck is so important for people.
hmm Yeah, especially when, like, I definitely agree how when things are given to you, it's sort of like a sign from the spirit world that that's for you at that particular time. I
Most
mean,
of
now that goes whether you're walking on a path and you find crystals on the ground, you find tarot, whatever it is, someone gives you a crystal ball. I mean, that's
yes.
all. Yeah, that's signs from the spirit world. That's for you.
That shit does not just happen by accident. There are no coincidences in this place whatsoever. So
hmm
if anybody watching, if that's happened to you, man, this is a sign that you need to pursue any type of divination to a higher level. Right? There's messages, things that are meant for you to learn in this lifetime, and not everybody gets access to this. Right? Most people will spend their whole life and never even know what a tarot deck is. Right? So if you're watching this type of content and you're paying attention, that means that there's more levels to be reached. Right? And the tarot is what's going to take you there. Again, it cuts through all the layers of bullshit, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Do you use the tarot in your rituals, in your ritual work?
And
And
I
if
use it.
so, how
Yeah.
do you go about that?
I use them in my rituals. I use them in my spell work. Um, I have one deck I read with, but I have another deck that's specifically for spell work. And I use it with any type of ritual that I'm performing for clients. I'll use the imagery to portray the concept that I'm wanting to retain, right? Something that I'm trying to make happen. Then that imagery is going to help fortify the connection energetically about what you're with your subconscious mind, what you're wanting to create, right?
Mhm.
So the more we incorporate the tarot, and listen, just everybody moves through the tarot. Everybody. This is really a map of everybody's life, right? So understanding that where you're at in the tarot is also a key factor. So using the imagery in your spell work, it's gonna let you it's gonna give you a deeper meaning to the cards as well.
Yeah. And like if you're struggling in a certain particular area in your life, one thing that is helpful and some people do is they'll take a particular card that pertains to their situation, sit down, look at the card, and go into a meditative state, and then just look at the imagery and then just get lost. Let your imagination run wild, like you're in the card, you're looking around. You can be brought answers that way. Would you agree?
Yeah, so anybody that's working spell work and you just started and you're trying to work on your visualization, the imagery helps with the visualization. So pick out an image that relates to what you're trying to work with. But what's even more powerful is when you can rebuild that imagery inside your mind without the decks, right? So think of the decks. They really help. The cards really help out in the beginning because it gives you a point of focus, right? But more go deeper than that. We start building the images inside the mind, and then we press them into the third eye. So let's start with the Star of David. We both know that that's an extremely powerful symbol representing to the masculine energy and the feminine energy, right? And this is the Merkuba. This is what your auric field looks like when we attain the light body, right? So this geometric shape and pattern is encoded and embedded in all things, right? So whenever you're doing visualization, and you use these sacred symbols and you breathe them into the third eye and then breathe them down the energy channel, the center channel in the body, you're going to activate deeper levels of awareness inside of you. So if you've never done that before, man, it's highly suggest working with the Merkuba. Just you building that image inside the mind, the subconscious mind, your body is a piece of technology. So it knows what you're trying to convey. And the message is to bring balance to this system in everything and all things in your life.
Hmm. Is there what deck would you say you tend to use the most and that you're drawn the most to?
Man, dude, I gotta plug this girl. So this is the Oracle of Echoes. This is a lady named Anna Turian made this deck. And it's just got some of the most explicit workings on the cards I've ever seen. So she painted all these,
Hmm.
right? And so I work with this. It's the Oracle of Echoes, man. It's a little pricey, but it's one of the best decks I've ever worked with. It combines elements of the tarot in with a darker Oracle deck. And you can do entire readings with this thing, man. So she only prints them out a couple times a year. So if you get a chance, go check her out. She's got some cool stuff.
I'll check that out. There are also tarot cards out there floating around that are like gold infused, have them
Yeah.
on there. You know what I mean? And the thing is about gold is that it's a very good conductor of energy.
Yes,
So, I
man.
mean, if you want to spend a little more money, they're out there, but it's, definitely, worth it as far as working with those types of decks. Would you agree? Working with,
100%, man. And if you can't afford that, even if you just get gold cards, right? So with the golden imagery, just working with these colors is sacred, right? So let's say most people are running on low energy, and it's because they don't have one of the colors operating, projecting out of their system. So if their root chakra is blocked, then they need the color red in their life, right? Or if the solar plexus is blocked, this is the color yellow. So working with an imagery like that on your decks is, again, you're working with these sacred colors that are bringing balance to your life. So as you're reading these, they're healing you at the same time because we're working with color.
hmm yeah. And again, there's that subconscious aspect to them that people don't realize that what's going on.
Yes.
Um, what would you say is often misunderstood about tarot for those who are just starting out?
So that the deck is most people see this as something separate than themselves, and that they don't see this as an extension of themselves. Right. So seeing this deck as yourself, and then as you're reading through the imagery, put your face on all the cards. Right. So that way you simulate it. It's not about the characters, it's you. It's all a story about you and your life. And so that right there will make the connection that much more personable.
Mhm. I agree. Well, that's been a very good chat of the tarot. I just wanted to get your perspective on it. Very unique. Everyone, thanks again for coming on.
Yes,
And
sir.
everyone who's watching, make sure you check out Kenneth's services. He offers classes, The link will be below in the video description. Check out his social media, his TikTok, his Instagram, etc. Check out all that. Thanks again, Kenneth, for your time.
And thank you so much, brother. I will see you very soon.
You're welcome. And everyone who's watching, like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.